In CIST 2510, we'll talk about lesson 9, working with images. In this lesson, you're going to learn essential information about raster and vector image basics. Then you're going to add images to your pages and learn how to position and style them using CSS classes. You're also shown how to work with Adobe Photoshop and create web-compatible images. But when you get to the web image basics, this section is going to be devoted to developing an essential understanding of web images. The most important concept is the relationship between image size and resolution to download speed. So when you increase the image size, it creates a larger file, and that larger file takes longer to download. So if you select different color palettes during optimization, then you can decrease image size, but that can adversely affect your quality. So another factor that many web designers ignore or are not aware of is that a large number of people using the internet still do not have high-speed broadband service. So that's something you need to be aware of when you're choosing your images. So before you learn how to work with image files, you first have to create a child page from your site template. From there, you can explore multiple methods for inserting raster images into your layouts. You want to make sure that you use and the principles behind the writing good alternate text. There are two helpful resources for this: Writing Great Alt Text and How to Write Good Alt Text for Images of Your Web Pages. I have provided the links to those images, or to these articles, on the screen here. So when working with images in Dreamweaver, you should be sure that you have defined the site's default image folder. Now, if you need this, if necessary, you want to go back to the directions in the Getting Started section back at the beginning of the book to see how to define the images folder. It's always a good idea also to identify any classes or IDs that are assigned to an element. This makes it easier to recreate the structure and styling if anything happens to that element. When you get to the Inserting Images and Design View section of your textbook, in this exercise here, you're going to be introduced to the advantage of working with images in the design view. Now, in most cases, you can simply double-click an image placeholders in the layout to replace them. The only exception of that are going to be images in non-editable portions of the child file. In most instances, you will create images at a desired size for a specific purposes, and there'll be no need to resize or adapt images within the layout. Now, however, there are going to be times when you need to change the existing size of an image after it's been placed in the page. So in previous versions of Dreamweaver, there were tools that were provided that enabled you to resize, crop, or resample images right inside of the program. That was removed in the 2001 release of Dreamweaver. And so now it's no longer possible to permanently resize or otherwise modify images within Dreamweaver. So in this exercise in your textbook, you're going to walk through the new procedures to resize images by transferring them to Photoshop directly from your layout. Now, while that image is inside Photoshop, it's a perfect time to perform any other type of image adjustments, maybe tonal corrections, equalization. Now, when you insert Photoshop files, so this is something that when Dreamweaver, when they went through and removed the image adjustment tools, Adobe's also removed support for the insertion of Photoshop or other non-web compatible images. So in previous versions of Dreamweaver, for example, users could insert and copy and paste images directly from Photoshop. That's something that's no longer possible, but you can still grab images or assets from Photoshop files using the extract panel in Dreamweaver. So we went through and used the extract to generate assets and CSS specifications earlier when we were building our site template. So when you get to this exercise, you're going to learn how to grab the entire image from Photoshop using extract. Now, this is something that's going to be a handy trick to know, even if you're not familiar with Photoshop or don't have it installed. You can also learn how to optimize images for search engines by adding alt text and titles. So after you insert images, um, you want to see how the element display and property inspector, how those can be used interchangeably to enter the alt text and other metadata as well. Now, the images, the use and increasing compatibility or increasing dependency on mobile devices and higher resolution displays, that's created a variety of challenges for the modern web designer. So there are various options that need to be considered when supplying images to a responsive website. One thing that you want to be made aware of is that the universal resolution for all web images is 72 pixels per inch. So if you have a question about what size or quality an image should default to, using the 72 ppi is still totally acceptable. In the inserting images using the Assets panel, you're going to learn how to use the Assets panel to insert images. This Assets panel should be populated with images within your site as soon as you define the site and Dreamweaver creates the cache. If you notice any other of your panels is empty or does not show a specific image, you want to click the refresh site list icon at the bottom of the panel. Now, this asset panel provides a lot of information for each image in your site. To view all of this, you may need to drag the edge of the panel to widen it to see all of that asset's information. The image asset window also shows all the images stored anywhere that is in the defined site. So this includes ones that's even outside of the site's designed or the default image folder. So you may see images stored in the lesson subfolders too. And you want to make sure that you insert the correct version of the desired image into your page. When you're adapting images to mobile design, so although Bootstrap framework automatically adjusts the layout for various size screens, the content itself does not automatically adapt. So when you get to this exercise, you're going to learn how to apply responsive styling to images that are inserted into your layout. Responsive formatting is supported directly by the Bootstrap framework, and that is one of the main advantages of using it. The insert menu, it duplicates most of the same controls and features of the insert panel. When you're using the menu, several of the commands have keyboard shortcuts. And if you find yourself using a command frequently, that Dreamweaver, in this you can create a custom shortcut key, and any shortcut key that's created by you will appear in the menu. The insert panel is a productivity tool that has been available in Dreamweaver for a long time. It gives the users instant access to import commands for inserting a variety of code elements and components using just a single click. It provides 8 preset categories and one that is going to be customizable. You want to make sure that you take the time to explore all the categories and also explore how you can add specific selected tools to the favorite category as you desire. So the advantage of the insert panel is that the options are visible whenever the panel is displayed, and it allows you quick access. The basic site template had many of the image placeholders sprinkled around the content sections. These placeholders were used by specific images when the child pages are created. Now, the uneditable portions of the template are also features image placeholders in the boilerplate content. So this exercise, it's intended to insert images in those areas as you did with the header sections in earlier contents of the chapters. Now, since these selections are locked and used in every new page, It's going to make sense that you add them now before you use the template. If you ever want to replace the images in the section in the future, Dreamweaver will index all the changes and then update all the child pages when that template is saved. Your basic site template. So when you're going in to add new content sections to that template and remove unneeded, the horizon rules and then earlier lessons. Now, because these rules were used to space out the text content, some of these elements are now butting up against each other in an undesirable way. So in this section, you're going to add a Bootstrap custom class to these sections to improve the visual appearance and the spacing. These types of classes are predefined in Bootstrap. There are various options available to you that will appear as you type in the new classes in the element display. So you'll have a hinting menu that will appear showing you all the classes that are similar. For example, as you type in MT, other options will listed. You can also create your own custom classes in the favorite-styles.css file. The Bootstrap image carousel is a predefined component of the starter layout. In here, you should see the image placeholders animate in live view as you work. So when you get to this part of the exercise, you're going to learn how to populate the carousel with images. Now, since the carousel is active in live view, you can only see one placeholder at a time. It is possible to select and replace images in live view, but that procedure can be confusing and it is prone to error. So the instructions in your book is going to tell you to switch to code view because it's a simple process then to identify the placeholders and the code structures and insert the desired image. Now, keep in mind, I don't want you to be afraid of working in code view. There are certain applications such as this one, though, that is easier to accomplish in code view versus being in design view or live view. Dreamweaver also provides various productivity tools while working in the code. And in this exercise, many of those are going to be pointed out. I want to emphasize the use of the hinting menus and the preview functions to both file names and image previews. Make sure that you explore those. When the hinting menu shows more than one file name or resource, you can also use your arrow keys to cycle through the options and select the resources using the Enter key. Now, be careful that you don't accidentally delete any code elements or open and closing brackets. That's something that is very easy to do. I also want to stress the concept of expected results. So when code is damaged or created incorrectly, you rarely achieve the desired results. So in this, if you're prepared for what you should expect, you'll be more easily able to identify when something is wrong. Now, when you delete an element or enter it incorrectly from time to time, this is something that will happen. And whenever you're working in code, it's very easy to hit the wrong key, leave a closing bracket off a tag. Part of web design is troubleshooting. So you have to look from your errors and learn from those. Now, sometimes one of the advantages in Dreamweaver is that if the error is not obvious, you can always use the edit undo, or you can close the file without saving it. And the styling headings with text in a Bootstrap carousel. This exercise is intended to style the headings in the Bootstrap carousel. In this, you're going to be walked through the process once more to identify what existing rules are formatting the headings. Now, at this point, we've done this many times in previous exercises. You should be getting good at using the CSS designer and switching between the all and current buttons. Your styling can be applied to various elements and not always the ones you anticipate. Be sure to write your selectors, the targets, the elements precisely. The first step in any such operation is to identify what styling characteristics you are looking for, whether it's the font family, the color, size, alignment, and other items. Keep in mind that this can be applied by one or more rules. Now, in some cases, you may need to edit or override several existing rules. These interactions can be very complex and cause a lot of unintended consequences. Selectors using Bootstrap often feature two or more elements or classes or combine selectors. So be careful when overriding a specific characteristic. Do not simply duplicate the entire selector from Bootstrap. You want to identify the exact part of the selector that targets the element you are trying to style and use only that part. So when you get to the last section to inserting images and child pages, in this exercise, you're going to finish the child page by inserting images into your tours.html and cruises.html. Now, at this point, you should be able to complete this task fairly easy.